Hi everybody, today's video is one I have been promising and I know several of you have been waiting for, and that is my review of the HB90 system and Bootcamp. I actually filmed this once before. It was entirely out of focus and I was already having a rough day. You can see that vlog, I'll link it up above. I decided I want to film it somewhere else, even though there's an echo in here, just because I had to get out of my office. So that's what I'm doing today. And you may hear Lou whining in the background because he's in a whiny mood today. Little context, if this is your first time finding me, I am self-employed. I work doing freelance work, licensing work, illustration work. I also make content, podcast videos, etc. here on the internet. I also sell art prints and other items with some of my fine art work. So I do creative work in a self-employed manner, but I'm not a writer. And Sarah Cannon, who created the HB90 system, is a writer, and it was originally created for writers. So I had been avoiding it for some time. Even though people had asked me if I would review it, I was like, I don't know if I'm the right person to review it. Well, in the past 3 years, I've been using the power sheets for my goal setting, both work-wise and personal life-wise, and they have been helpful for me. But in this last year, I noticed that I was setting these really like mushy, touchy-feely goals for my work life, and what I needed to do was be able to set some more concrete, measurable, almost analytical kinds of work goals while maintaining that feeling of kind of squishiness at the same time. And the power sheets were just not supporting me in that. They weren't the right tool for me. They were working great for my personal life, but for my work life, they were inadequate. That had just become very obvious to me in the past 6 months or so. So I've been following Sarah Cannon over on her Heart Breathings channel for a couple of years now, at least. She was actually the one who introduced me to the concept of the Kanban board, which when I have used it in the past has been helpful for me. So I was like, you know, maybe this is the time. And what I wound up doing was buying the planner in the summer when we were in the middle of our move to Denver, thinking this is the perfect time to swap over my goal setting system for work. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Not only did I not follow through on it in the summer, I also didn't really follow through on any of my planning methods because I was in the middle of moving from California to Colorado with 2 cats, one of whom was dying of kidney failure, and I also have kidney failure, so too much going on. But in September, I kind of limped my way through it in a month, and then I swore to myself I was gonna give it a real try during Q4, so I signed up for the boot camp and then have been using the method for the past 3 months. And I promised you all that I wouldn't do a review of the boot camp until I had actually implemented it so that I could give you a really thorough thought process on it, and that's what I'm doing today as we are approaching the last few weeks of this quarter, especially in the timing of the way she puts the planner together. And I thought it would be a good time to give you this review, especially considering that the bootcamp is currently open for registration when you're watching this video. It's open until the 12th, I believe, Sunday the 12th until noon Eastern time. And that's when the kickoff call is later that day. And as a matter of fact, that's a perfect timing for me to give you some of the information about the planners and the bootcamp up front in case that's all you're here for. The planners are digital. They should all be up on Etsy right now. I've already bought mine for this next year. I got the yearly dated goals only. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. But she's got a couple different versions. She's got the goals only for the whole year. She's got an undated quarterly planner, and then she's got the Q1 dated planners, and all of them come in both either Sunday or Monday start. And when you buy the digital planner, you get both A5 and letter sized. The current Q1 dated planner is $15. The goals only version and the undated version are $30, and then I believe they're on sale right now. They were on sale when I purchased them yesterday, so they might still be on sale when you're watching this. Hi Layla. As for the boot camp, it is $199, or there's like a 3-month and a 6-month payment plan. My link is an affiliate link, so I do get a commission if you use that link, and if you don't because you don't like using affiliate links, totally understand. I'm not worried about it, but if you do want to use it, thank you for supporting the channel. The reason I decided to accept an affiliate link is because, spoiler alert, the bootcamp was very helpful for me, and I do plan on taking it again for this quarter. The bootcamp is on sale currently when you're seeing this video through December 12th, 2021 at noon Eastern time. The kickoff call is at 3 Eastern time, and we'll talk more about that as we talk about the bootcamp. And the bootcamp dates itself runs from the 12th through the 18th. but you get lifetime access to it if you purchase it, which is why I'm gonna take it again. I don't need to pay for it again. Let's get into the review of the system. So I'm gonna divide this into parts just to make it a little easier, both in the timestamps and in the way my thoughts work on this, because I feel like there's separate parts to how I'm gonna review this. We're gonna talk about the planner first, which I'm not referring to the goal setting stuff, just the planner aspect of it. I should say up front that I didn't use it. So I can't tell you how useful it was for me because I didn't use it. I incorporated the goal setting stuff into the planners I was using, my bullet journal, etc., etc. It's a fairly standard style vertical planner with a dot grid background. I did a flip through of it back in the summer. I will link it up above. The actual planner pages have not changed in the new version. The goal setting stuff has had some changes. The planner stuff hasn't. It's a vertical planner. You get the same amount of space, both in the weekly and in the daily pages for the weekend. It has some things on it that are specific to like a writing work in progress, but for the most part, it is a very light amount of structure, so there's a lot of room for flexibility in it. I've already given you the options, the dated quarterly for Q1, the undated quarterly or the yearly goal setting, which is dated. But when you buy it, you choose either a Sunday or a Monday start, which I love. And then when you get it, you get both sizes. And when you get the planner, the one that has the planner in it, you also get a weekly version or a weekly plus daily version. Now it's printable, you can print whatever you want, but you get the most options when you're buying the quarterly dated because it gives you several different ways you can print it. That's actually what I bought back in September and in the summer. This time around though, I'm just getting the goal setting system. So let's talk about that goal setting system. This is why I went to it in the first place. I wanted the goal setting stuff and it did not disappoint me. I'll be real with you. It did a great job of distinguishing between goals, projects, and tasks and how to go from one to the next to the next. Like it's very methodical while incorporating at least a small amount of like woo-woo, which is something that I didn't realize I needed until I'd used the power sheets for a long time and realized actually it's key to helping me stay motivated for my goals, even though I needed a little bit more structure around them. One of the other things I really appreciate about the goal setting stuff is that there is a massive focus on utilizing your time wisely and not just in a trying to cram as much as you can into any given day, but being realistic with your time, how much you can actually get done at any given time, and making sure that there is space in your life for things besides your work, which is important for me because I struggle with that right now. One of the aspects of the planning system that I really appreciated was really looking at your quarter as a whole, thinking about how much you want to work during any given day, any given week, what like admin, repeating tasks you have versus the projects you want to work on, and then making space so that you know you're planning in advance, not only for things like vacation days or days off, but also if you have a chronic illness, do you anticipate needing to take time off or having like emergencies? Like, you know, these things come up and you know your life. So estimate on the higher end of things how much time you may lose to those things and account for it when you're deciding on what you want to do for the quarter so that you're not overbooking yourself. And for me, a lot of planning systems don't take that into account. And as someone with chronic illness who does lose a lot of time to it, that actually was very, very helpful for me. It felt very validating as well as useful. She also had some beta features around using time blocks or task blocks instead of just general estimating, which she was testing during the boot camp, which I'll talk a bit more about in a minute. But those things have now been incorporated into the planners, both into the weekly reviews in the dated planner and into the weekly checklists in the goal setting planner, as well as other aspects. So it's already in there, which I'm excited to try out because I think it'll help refine some of these time estimating things. Like I said, there is a level of woo-woo-ness and I'm okay with that. The part I struggled the hardest with was like the vision casting, like what's your best life gonna look like? Because I will be real with you, I'm a fatalist when it comes to my own life. I am in terminal kidney failure and I need to get a transplant. I lost my dad when he was 40, my mom when she was 45, and I'm 41 right now. I'm not great at thinking into the future of what my life might look like. It's scary to me. What I want is to be alive, but I really did try to focus on how I wanted to feel, because that's a little less frightening for me. So I did struggle my way through that section a little bit, but it was helpful leading into the more concrete goal setting sections to help keep priorities straight. And I will say that once you get through that beginning kind of feelings aspect of it, the goal setting, the project planning, the task like listing is all a lot more concrete. And that was a little hard for me as well, again, because I'm coming from using the power sheets where it wasn't quite as easy for me. It's not like you can't set measurable concrete goals with the power sheets. It's not as very laid out for you. It's a lot like smushier than that. And with this, there was a lot of support in really like setting concrete, I keep using that word, but it's like the best word for it, like measurable, like tangible goals, and then setting up projects that will directly lead to those goals and then breaking those into tasks. Like, again, very methodical, very helpful in figuring out outcomes. And it was a little rough for me at first because it's been so long since, like, I think one of the reasons I gravitated towards the power sheets was because I could avoid setting goals like that. So it took a little bit of breaking of some of my personal fears around that to get through it. But again, a lot of support both with the planner and the boot camp. Now, when it comes to the Kanban board, I found it very, very, very motivating, like extremely motivating. And the Kanban board aspect of the whole thing is my favorite part of the system. She does give tips both in the planner and in the boot camp on how to manage the Kanban system to keep you from feeling overwhelmed if sheer massive amounts of Post-its make you like go into a panic attack. She recognizes that. I will also say that the monthly and the weekly check-ins, while something I have actively avoided in my planning life because they felt kind of hokey to me, they still felt a little hokey at first, but as time went on, I started to see the value in them, and that was helpful both in terms of how it progressed and in terms of keeping me on task. So now that I've kind of talked about the planning system in general, here's my thoughts on the boot camp. It consists of a few aspects. First of all, it's a week long, thereabouts, and it is time locked, like it's gated. So you start with your kickoff call, and then every day a chunk of it opens up, and you're supposed to do that day so that the next day it's like it builds on itself. You get a copy of the planner for your first time. If you are an alumni, you still get access to the boot camp, but she asks that you buy the planner yourself so that, you know, to make sure like it's meant just for the new people. There's a Facebook group for the current batch of newbies, so like whoever's in this new boot camp will be in a group together. And then there's a group for all of the alumni. I did not participate in the groups because I am avoiding Facebook like the plague right now. But I have heard that they're very supportive. There's the live kickoff call on Sunday. That is the only live call for the duration of the boot camp. And then, like I said, lifetime access to the course and the updates. And the time-gated stuff comes also with an email every single day to remind you. And if you're an alumni, you get the opportunity to sign up for the new email list before the boot camp starts. Now, the live call itself is on both YouTube and both Facebook groups. So I participated via YouTube and I found it very motivating. It was fun to chat with people in the YouTube comments, and I plan to be on for the call this Sunday. It's at what time? 3 p.m. Yeah, I can be on the call because my streams don't start until 2:30. Yeah, I'm good. I'm sorry, I was doing time change, time zones. So if you are gonna join the boot camp, I will be in the comments on the YouTube part of the live, not the Facebook ones, because like I said, Facebook and I are not friends right now. Overall, the boot camp was extremely helpful for me. Now, I will say, if you don't want to do the boot camp, there is plenty of guidance in the planner. I feel like the boot camp is both a combination of like a deeper level of guidance as well as some amount of accountability as you work through the process. For me, that's necessary because that sort of thing helps keep me on track when I can easily get distracted by other things. What I wound up doing, because it was time gated to each day, but there wasn't any live aspect to it except for that first day, is that I scheduled myself a couple of hours each day when I had time during the day, like when it was gonna be best for me. It was usually at the end of my workday, but I scheduled myself a couple of hours to go through and do that day's like module or whatever, that day's section. I found that some days, especially towards the beginning, I did not need the 2 hours. Remember I said I struggled a little bit with the whole vision thing. So I did it, but I didn't like ruminate over it too long because it was really stressing me out. So I didn't need the 2 hours. Towards the end of the week, especially when it came to writing out all of the Post-it notes for the Kanban board, yeah, I needed more than the 2 hours. And the Kanban board, like the final setup of all of like the task lists and everything, I spread that out over a couple days for the sake of my tendinitis. One of the most helpful things about the bootcamp for me was going over each section. She provided examples, and this especially is where it was helpful for me as someone who is not a writer to really adapt it. I will say, and I didn't mention this in the planner section, that it is obviously a planner for writers. There are bits and pieces of it that are like geared towards word count and things like that. But overall, you can ignore some of them, and a lot of it you can just adapt to whatever you're doing. I found the bootcamp helpful because she offered examples, not just for writers, but for other professions as well. And then she would actually sit there and do examples of, like she would talk about examples, and then she would actually walk through it and show examples. I found that extremely helpful. It seems like a small thing, right? But for me, there were a couple of times where I was kind of blocked, and those absolutely helped. I am a reader, so reading the planner is helpful, but I'm also somebody who learns really well from video, and she has the videos in the program, and that was very helpful for me to follow along with. Now, the beta features were available to me. There may not be beta features this time, I don't know. But there were this past time for these time blocks that she just incorporated. And she did suggest that if you were a new person to the bootcamp like I was, to not use the beta stuff, but to just go through what was already in there. And for people who had been through it a few times, to try the beta stuff out and let her know. I appreciated that she clarified that. I did look at them and found them very interesting, but I followed what she said and stuck with the original systems. This time around, I'm really excited to try them. Now, when it comes to accountability, I'm sure that the Facebook groups are very helpful for that. I've heard that as well, so you know, that's a total thing. But for me, the main accountability was the course itself and the time gating of it, like the daily emails, scheduling the time, because I wanted to stay caught up with it. I didn't want to fall behind. I wanted to just get it done because I knew that like it was going to be very helpful for me in the long run. Like it wasn't like this was me learning about how to goal set and then I'd have to goal set later. One of the great things about this bootcamp is that while you're learning this stuff, you're doing it. So by the end of it, you should have a full-blown plan for the next quarter. You spent the time wisely, if that's, I mean, at least that's how it felt for me. And giving myself the full week and doing the little bit each day with the time gating also gave it room to let it breathe, which was nice. I could do some stuff, work on other things, but kind of have it percolating in the back of my mind so that I could make changes when I got back to it or really like think about it. So overall, I found the bootcamp to be extremely helpful for me in actually doing all of that work and getting all set up so I could hit the ground running when the new quarter started. And I am looking forward to doing it again this time. Finally, part 4, which is the follow through. To me, the reason I wanted to save this review till the end of the quarter, because all of this to be said, buying the planner, using the goal setting system, even going through the boot camp, it only matters if you actually follow through on it. So how did the follow through work for me? Well, first of all, and she recommends this, I made the following through part of my goals. I had one of my goals was geared towards making sure that I was trying to set boundaries around my work time and only working the times I said I wanted to, but I made that kind of my admin related goal and added to that the reviews and everything like that, because I made the checking, the recording my work hours and like reviewing all of that part of the weekly review, so that became part of my goals. So in order to work on my goals, I had to check in on my goals. It reinforced it to me, and I found that extremely helpful. I still was a little cheesed out during doing the weekly reviews, especially in the first month or so, because like, dude, I knew what I did that week. Like, why did I have to write it back down again? But the methodology of it really did reinforce some stuff for me, and I'm actually now looking for ways to incorporate that sort of situation into my personal life next year. Of all of it, the Kanban board was the most helpful aspect for me. I think the proof of how well it has worked for me is that I only had to add a couple of tasks to it over the course of the quarter in order to stay on track, and it was for a couple of things that I just hadn't broken down as well as I thought I had. I was remarkably accurate with my Kanban board, and it kept me on task. The other thing I'm learning from it is there is a whole section, a whole chunk of tasks, a whole project, like I'm still on track to meet my goal for that particular goal, but there's a project within that goal that hasn't been touched and isn't going to be touched this quarter. And that is helping me see when I do my next round of the boot camp, how I can refine deciding how many projects I'm actually capable of in a given quarter. And that's another thing that Sarah mentions, is the more often you do the boot camp and follow the system for every quarter that you follow it, you get better and better and better at figuring out how much time you actually reasonably can commit to any goal in any given quarter. And that was immeasurably helpful for me. I think my follow through has gone well, both because I really enjoy the concept of the Kanban board. I had my plans laid out for the whole quarter and I incorporated it into my goal setting. So it was like probably the easiest aspect, the easiest Kanban board notes to move down were the ones that had to do with following through on the weekly reviews and the plan every week, like actually doing that aspect of the system every single week. So of course I was gonna do it every week. If I wanted, I could get post-it notes out of it. Like, seems small, but again, you figure out what motivates you and then you do it. And so I have followed through and I have been very successful at it. Like, I have met, for the most part, the goals that I wanted to meet. And I'm excited to continue on for the next time around. So I guess that brings me to my final thoughts, right? My final thoughts on this, if you can't tell, it worked really well for me. I'm gonna continue with it. I do still plan on doing some yearly kind of forecasting, financial forecasting, deciding on like a bigger picture of certain things for the next year. However, this planning by quarter is very helpful for me. It helps keep things at a manageable kind of basis. It's worked really well for my workflow. It's worked really well for my peace of mind, and I absolutely want to continue with it. As of right now, I plan to participate in the boot camp on the 12th, as well as upcoming boot camps. Like, I think this is a method that will be very helpful for me. It'll help me not skip out on my quarterly planning. It will help me really stay in a rhythm of it with some level of accountability, and I'm excited about that. But here's the thing, and this is what I really, like, maybe the final thought that I think is the most important. I don't think this system is for everybody. I think anybody could probably take it and adapt it to their lives, but I think it is most useful for you if you are self-employed and you are mainly self-directed. It is entirely possible to be self-employed and to be focused almost entirely on client work, and so the pacing and the influx of client work is what determines your work schedule. I do take on client work, but because of the nature of the way I'm self-employed, I pick and choose the client work I want to take. I am more in command of my schedule than otherwise. A lot of my projects are self-directed, and so that is both the blessing of being able to control my schedule, but also the downfall is that sometimes it's real easy to overschedule myself, and that's something that I still did a little bit of this last time around, but I'm going to hopefully do better on it next time. This system was created for writers, so it is really meant for somebody who has creative projects that they are completely in charge of and need to really give themselves the goals to get through. If you are somebody whose work is mainly self-directed, this could be very helpful for you. If you are somebody who does not get to control the projects that they're doing, I don't know if it's gonna be as good for you. If you're somebody who wants to do this just for personal goal setting, you probably could. I think that it might be a little bit more in-depth than you necessarily need for personal goal setting. I will be using something else for personal goal setting myself, but you can do that. I just would suggest that if you are somebody who has heard everything I've said in this and feels like it would also be really good for you, then go for it. Use my affiliate link if you want to. Don't use my affiliate link if you don't want to, but don't buy the planner first if you're gonna do the boot camp, because you'll get the planner with the boot camp. However, if you think that maybe, kind of like I was feeling, that because it was meant for writers, it might not work for you specifically, then go for the digital planner, the download planner. Start with that for a quarter, give it a try, see, because there's plenty in there. You don't need the boot camp if you're just testing the waters out. Try that out first, and then maybe go for the boot camp next quarter. She usually offers them 2 or 3 weeks before the quarter begins. So that's my thought on that. I don't think everybody should run out and try this, because I don't necessarily think it's right for everybody, but if it is right for you, then you may find, like I did, it's really right for you. So those are my thoughts. I enjoyed it. I think it is great. I am excited to do it again. And if you decide you're gonna do it again, whether you decided from this video or you already knew or it's your first time, let me know in the comments below so I can look for you on the welcome call. Like I said, I won't be in the Facebook group. I mean, I'm in them, but I'm not in them. You know what I'm saying? And if this is not for you, let me know what you might be using for any sort of goal setting for next year, or if you're not bothering. I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your patience in waiting for this video. And until next time, friends, peace out.